So the tips and tricks we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about, as Patrick said, 10 different tips to go over. We'll talk about the search tips overall. We'll talk about how to set up a search to email you the results of that in the email report section. We'll discuss the recycle bin and how you should use it and how you can use it. We'll discuss very quickly the paste folders process. We'll talk a little bit about watermarks and annotations. Eventually we'll get into the customization of toolbar buttons, so you can add your own toolbar buttons to the Laserfiche toolbar if you need them. We'll talk about automatic signature process. That'll be where Jessica takes it over. And she'll also be talking about the advanced properties within workflow and online payment with forms. So let's start by talking about searching overall. So within Laserfiche, there are generally two main areas of the toolbar from which you can search. As you can see, we have on the right-hand side what we would call the basic search, which is the section that says search and says enter a search term. And on the left-hand side, in the second of the two toolbar buttons, we have a magnifying glass icon, which will open up a search pane below it. Typically, the search pane will take the place of the repository structure pane, but we'll see that in due time. To begin with, let's go ahead and take a look at the basic search functionality. So on the top right of the toolbar, you'll see that there is a search field where you can enter in whatever terms you'd like to search for. If you click on the drop-down arrow next to the magnifying glass, you'll be able to see the basic options that are available to you when it comes to these quick searches. In this instance, you can see we have this set to search for the OCR text of our documents and not in the entry names, fields, or annotations section. But you do have the ability to search for any combination of these together as well. One of the things that you may consider here is that if you're having problems with the basic search, one of the first things that you should do is take a look at this drop-down menu and determine if you are searching in the way that you're expected to. When users don't get the results that they're looking for from a quick search, it's often because the wrong selection is being chosen. The more documents that you have in your system, the less likely that such a straightforward method, though, will give you the useful data that you want. It'll probably give you a little bit more data than you can handle. So, for example, if I'm running a restaurant and I'm looking for recipes that are involving apples, just putting the word apples in the search box and searching for text is likely to give me way more than I need, including not just recipes, but menus, invoices, maybe even internal emails if I save them within my repository. So I need a way to target my search a little bit more specifically, and that is where the complex search functionality comes into play. The quickest way to access the complex search functionality is to use the magnifying glass within the toolbar there, second button usually. It lets you be a lot more specific in the ways you search. If you look on the search pane itself, the complex search pane, at the bottom you'll notice that there is a refine results button. So rather than just doing a search and finding the results, you can do a search within searches. If you want to narrow down what you've seen, that's a great way to do it. You'll also notice that at the bottom of the complex search pane, one of the sections that I have up right now is the advanced search section. This is a section that you can either toggle on or off depending upon which method you use when you're customizing your search. It will basically allow you to see the language the system uses when it runs its search. It may look a little arcane at this point, but what you're seeing is the syntax that the system uses to search in the way you've stipulated in the sections above there. There's also a checkbox on there for including the advanced search criteria and query, which allows you to access, copy, and modify the syntax that we have in there. This is very useful that we'll see a little later on when we are setting up searches within workflow, but for right now, just be aware that this is now accessible and modifiable by a user. So let's kind of zoom in on this search syntax here and determine what it's looking for. If I use the search syntax that you're seeing displayed right here, this will return items in Laserfiche where Apple appears in the document text or in an entry name. The template that it's searching for is a document that has a recipes template, and the main ingredient field, metadata field, is apples. Now, if we change this by checking that advanced search criteria checkbox and typing in something different, in this case changing the equal sign in the latter section of the syntax to a less than, greater than combination, it will instead search for items in Laserfiche where apple appears in the document text or entry name, recipes in the template, but the main ingredient field is not apples. So this is a way to really fine-tune your search in that capacity. Very quickly, I'd like to go over some common search syntax qualifiers here. You can see that the square brackets are useful for stipulating a range of characters, 1 through 5, or letters A through M. As we mentioned earlier, the greater than, less than combination there is a does not equal signifier. The AND symbol is the intersection of searches. So again, if you're searching within your results, probably it's using the AND functionality there. The AND is part of that syntax. Whereas the vertical line is a unification of those two searches. So if you want to find all your documents that are using the recipes template and all the ones that are using the menus template, all of them together, you use the unification section. Within the different criteria that are available to us in complex searches, we have the curly quotes, which are useful in stipulating boundaries there. And as you've probably seen in searches elsewhere, an asterisk is a wildcard representing any string of characters. We also have the ability to customize the quick search section. We're switching back. We've swum out into the depths of the complex search. So let's circle back around and talk more about the basic search again. One of the options in here that's at the bottom of this section is customize quick searches. If you find yourself performing searches that require a lot of customization on a regular basis, it can be a little bit time-consuming to go through the complex search field and configure that each time. We do have the ability to save those sorts of searches and load them up from there, but if you want to save even more time, you can set up customized searches within your quick search section as well. And to do that, we would first of all need to copy the search that we'd set up in the complex search section. Choose the Customize Quick Searches option that we saw on the previous page there, and we get this particular window that we're seeing right here. On the left-hand side, we can see sort of a blank slate section that we have not set up yet to have any complex or any customized searches, that is. On the right-hand side, you can see that we've started the process of creating our own customized search. Part of the instructions that you'll see here, you'll notice it says that if you put in the token search term, it will use whatever you typed in that text box above in place of that token, as with most tokens. So in this instance, you can see that I've got 4 different customized searches set up in here. One where it's searching for the main ingredient is the search term we've typed in there, and the recipes template. We have a section for recent correspondence here, supplier, so on and so forth. Whatever you'd like to set up in there is fine. As with the 4 preset quick search options, you can use any combination of those together that will get you the results that you'd like. So we also do have, we have a question here.
Can we, has anybody actually used this feature?
All right.
What have you used it for?
I use a lot of stuff, but we have just a lot of human resources, so I customize that. All of our employees, we've got like 4,000 of them, so they can study unique PIN numbers. So I just customize that to a PIN number.
All right.
So you customized it to just search a particular field, just the text of one field.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to go to the complex search, choose the field every time, then type it. That's a great use. Another really good use for this is if you only search, let's say you have a huge repository of information, but you really only search for folder names within one specific folder, you can set up a quick search so you're only searching object name within a particular folder. It will dramatically decrease your search times This is what I do to find your folders when I'm working, and I need to find your folder where your documentation is stored really quickly. I have a client folder search that just searches folder object names within that folder, and it's super fast. So you can do it. Field searches are a great way. Within folder searches are a great way, so that you don't have to have those searches that sometimes can take a little bit longer to complete.
By the way, this is Jessica Welsh, Director of Consulting. Patrick
Sorry.
Welsh, President. I realized I got a little excited with the simulcast, so I did do introductions, but Andrew Baldwin, Marketing Director, and then also Ryan Pegley as account manager. So, sorry about that. We had the workshop this morning, and I got comfortable with a lot of the events. And Ian got it.
Yes, thank you. All right, so something else that you can use the complex search process for is setting up basically searches to get emailed to you on a regular basis. So are there any searches that you tend to perform on a regular basis? Things like maybe quality control, for instance? Anyone kind of go through and do searches on a regular basis for particular documents? I know we had, oh, there we go. You're over there. What do you do typically regularly?
I keep things to make sure we have like an active working folder with all of our working documents. There shouldn't be things in that folder that are older,
Right.
certain or modified past
Yeah, that's
times. So I run that.
yeah. Quality control to check over to make sure that all the data has been entered correctly is a very common tactic with this. One of the attendees earlier today, actually, Brian from Skagit, did something similar, and actually for him, we set up a workflow to be performed on a regular basis and email him results, which is sort of the example I'll be going through today. I'll be showing you the basic process of how to
Can you
attack
repeat
that.
the question for the
Oh, let's see here. The question, the comment was just that she uses quality control searches to check over to make sure that folders have been kept up to date and all of their information has been filled in correctly. So, all right. So, like I say, we can configure workflow to provide that information, results of a search in an HTML formatted email. So the basic process to do that would be to go into workflow. You can see this is a little bit zoomed in here, but this is the basic steps of the workflow that are involved here. The first step you'd want to do here is set up an assign token values activity. The idea being here that we would set up a token to represent the results of our search and modify that as part of the workflow process. So you'd create a token through here. The initial values of tokens should include any HTML openers that you want to make your results nicely formatted, including things like column headers. You can see we've got the table border, body style, so on and so forth set up in there. One important step here is also to make sure that the allow token to have multiple values checkbox is checked, because we will not just be setting this up and leaving it the way it is. We will want this to be a token that changes and gets added to during the workflow being run. The next step of the workflow is typically to set up a search activity. This is where copying and pasting from the complex search section that we talked about previously comes into play. Part of setting up a search activity within workflow involves pasting the information in to let it know how to search, to use that search syntax that we'd set up and derived previously. The next step would typically be to set up a for each search result entry. Since we don't know how many search results we will find, we want each result that we get to have an activity tied to it. The idea here is that in this case we have a loop set up so that when it finds the first search result entry, it performs two activities here. It retrieves the values from the first result, and it takes those values and modifies the token we set up earlier to add those field values to that result, typically in an HTML formatted style.
It's worth mentioning too to everybody, we'll be sending out the slide deck to you. So if you're quickly running down that flowchart, don't worry, we'll send that out to you.
Yes, this will be available in the future as well. So, anyway, the last step in this loop here is modifying that token that we set up earlier. And with that, we want to choose that token from the activity section there in the upper spot that you see on here, the upper section of the window. Put in whatever the new values happen to be here. You can see that we've got the creation of a column cell in there as well. We've got the append to existing values option checked here so that it will continually add on to that token. So for each of these results, this will occur once. And by the end, we'll have a very, very long token, but it'll have all the information we need for the search results that we're doing. It's worth noting that you'll want to end the values that you put in here in a way that will either allow a subsequent value to be tacked on at the end because it's not sure if it's the last result in those searches, or have a closer appended to it at the end there. Kind of leave it open, let it get to a point where it can be repeated afterwards. Whatever the case, once all of those search results have gone through that process, we have the final two steps here. We have the token modification activity that will allow you to close up that HTML table, kind of the close boxes there. And finally, we would set up an email to be sent out to whomever it is you want to receive the searches, probably yourself. Do we have a question here?
We do.
Okay.
So Steve is asking, what is the trigger for the email report? How would Joe user launch this workflow at will, or is it scheduled?
It could be either. We have not gotten to that point yet. Should I repeat that question?
Okay.
So Joe is asking, what's the trigger for the email to be sent out? Effectively, when will the workflow be run? You have the option of setting that up, running it manually if you'd like. You could also set it up on a schedule. I believe some of the later slides will show how to set up for a scheduled run.
If you were here this morning, we talked about the scheduler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we're building out the email on the front end of it. We did the scheduler this morning. So
Yes, exactly. So
fantastic. You can use the two pieces together.
yeah, that's a question that basically hasn't been answered by this yet, but there's a lot of different answers available to it. So, other questions? Anything else?
I think that's good for now.
Okay. All right, then, moving on. So the next section here is where we would go to actually set up the email in question. You'll notice here that this particular one is addressed to me, because it's just a test email here. But it is including the search result count. I've set up the text within the email to have that information there. And I've also included the token for the search result itself, the one that we consistently added to throughout the workflow there. It is worth mentioning here that it's important to format this token in an HTML format. You'll want to include the text that you see on here, # closed brackets, space, so on and so forth there. See HTML shows up in the last line of this email at this point. In order to see the results in a nicely formatted style, which we'll see in a few slides here, you'll want to include that. Otherwise, you'll just see the raw code. So let's keep on going here. So as with all workflows, this is kind of an answer to Steve's question earlier, you'll have the option of setting up a schedule or condition-based rule stipulating when the workflow is activated. If you're talking about quality control searches, I would say it's probably a good idea to set up a schedule, but you have plenty of options available to you there. So this is the example of the email that would get sent out. It's a little bit tough to see, admittedly, but we do have a nicely formatted HTML table right here. In this case, you can see there's a lot of empty spaces because that's the results that came back from the search. But nonetheless, we do have information in here for the entry ID to point to that. And what information that you see displayed is up to you, up to however you'd like to configure this. Question from the audience? Oh, all right. So does anyone have any ideas for how they might be able to use this sort of search? Is there any additional ideas as to how you might utilize this in your own situations? I know we had a quality control mention earlier. Anybody else who have any ideas?
Well, I just had a great idea for myself. We use Laserfiche in our office just as much, if not more than a lot of our users do. But I'd love to see, most recent projects. So when when one of my consultants is working on one of our clients' projects, I'd love to see the most recent update. Whenever a Word document has been updated, a specific type of Word document, like a project plan, and then get a daily or weekly update on when they've been updated. So I mean, it's just an example. So I can see status of any project paperwork that's been completed. I think that would be interesting.
Okay, we have a couple of simulcast questions. So Steve was wondering, can Joe user trigger it, or would they need the workflow client program to launch? And another way of asking it would be, can this be launched from the basic Laserfiche client?
I believe you could probably set it up as a business process in order to have it run manually by anyone you'd care to give access to. Basically, that's the long and short answer.
Okay.
So yeah, Steve asked if you can have any user run this manually, and the answer is, if you set it up as a business process, yes.
Tell Steve you can also put a custom toolbar on your
Yes.
Laserfiche client
And we'll be seeing that.
to launch a business process. So it's as easy as clicking a button on your toolbar.
Yes.
So just to reiterate for everybody, if you want to run this ad hoc, and you said, I want to run a report, but I want to give my users the option of launching that report whenever they want to, it would be a business process. If we wanted this to run Monday mornings at 8 a.m. or Friday at 4:30 or something, that would be the scheduler within workflow, and that would run automatically.
Other questions?
Yeah. This email only works in the Outlook environment, correct?
You can set up whatever recipient you care to. I would imagine that as long as the email client can handle HTML, it should be able to display in whatever email client you care to.
It's to answer that question too, and I'm speaking a little louder. Hopefully, everybody else just kind of make sure the webcam picks it up here. But the email is going out through an SMTP server, so it's just an email, an outbound email. So should work in any client. Should work.
Question?
Can the report become like attachment to the email other than part of the email body?
Can the report become an attachment to the email as opposed to part of the email body?
I think
I think if you probably use the PDF creation activity within workflow, you could create that and attach it to an email.
you could possibly do a script to export to CSV.
Yeah.
What kind of report were you thinking? Did you have anything in mind?
If we, let's say, the construction line, we will have someone using all the records or anecdotes, and then we email them out to the department. So I would like to put an email again at the only business text email to send it that way, other than having all this out. That would be taken.
Sure. So there's a file destruction plan.
Okay. Yeah. So a file destruction plan. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be possible. Yeah.
Other questions from?
Do you want to repeat the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did repeat the question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Just kidding.
All right. So, do we have any other questions on?
Not at this moment.
All right. So very quickly, this is a link to or URL for the source where I got the technique to set up this sort of email report. So if you'd like to refer back to this, you can take a look at this slide later on and go to this area.
If anybody's not familiar with this, answers.laserfiche.com. I know a lot of you already. It's really the new Laserfiche users forum. So it's been available for about a year now. Definitely check it out. It's very popular. Lots of great tips and tricks from other users, other Laserfiche experts. Laserfiche corporate itself is on there. So make use of answers.laserfiche.com.
All right. So moving on. The next topic on our tips and tricks here is the recycle bin. So the recycle bin is pretty much a mainstay of not just Laserfiche, but of modern operating systems in general. With Laserfiche, though, I tend to think of this less as a recycle bin and, in using a different metaphor, that of a drain trap. Now, it's not the main function of a drain trap, but one of the things that a drain trap does is it prevents dense objects that get dropped down the drain from progressing any further into the plumbing system. If you drop a ring down the sink, for instance, you can often retrieve it by temporarily removing the trap, getting it out of there. So it is with deleted Laserfiche files. So within the admin console, we have a property section for the recycle bin, which will allow you to disable the recycle bin, which I don't recommend, and we'll get into why very shortly here, or enable it, as you can see what we've got up here. The idea here is that if you were to disable the recycle bin, it effectively removes the drain trap and lets things go immediately into the plumbing system, which can be a very bad idea if you have someone who deletes your repository, your entire repository. It does it without pausing and does not give you a chance to retrieve it effectively, unless you've got a backup, but all the same, it's a bad idea to need that backup. So just be aware that enabling the recycle bin is definitely a recommended process here. You'll notice we also have the age limit section set up on here. The idea is that if you set up an age limit, it will retain the documents within that recycle bin for a set number of days before getting rid of them automatically. This is your chance to review what's in there and make sure it should actually get deleted before it goes all the way through there. So yes, you want to make sure that you've got that enabled there through that way. Now, we do have some additional privileges within the admin console that we can assign to individual users. A user can be assigned the delete right, which will allow them to either move documents into the recycle bin for disposal later on, or immediately delete documents if you don't have a recycle bin enabled. Again, not a good idea. We also have privileges that can get assigned to users, which will allow us to purge the entry, which is effectively emptying the recycle bin, getting rid of things that have been deleted in the past, or deleting individual document versions as we go through there. Yes, and as I said earlier, this user has an age limit set up here of 7 days. It is a good idea to set up an age limit here so that you don't have files piling up in there that can overwhelm your storage. If you deal with large files and delete frequently, getting rid of those deleted files on a regular basis is a good idea to keep things flowing smoothly, to keep things just operating the best they can. Does anyone have any questions about the recycle bin in general, just the basic concept of deleting files? Okay, we have a question out there.
Is this to be set up per user, per group of users, or just for your entire repository?
Okay, the question was, can you set it up per user, for individual users, or for your entire repository? That's sort of like several different questions there in little ways. Certainly the activation of the recycle bin is a global phenomenon. It will be available to everyone in your repository or not. You can, on an individual level, determine whether specific users have the ability to delete files, to move them to the recycle bin. If you don't want to give that privilege to some users but do want to give it to others, you can do that with no problem. And likewise, you can change the privileges they've got as well. So if you don't want to give people the ability to purge the system, to empty the recycle bin, you can rescind that from certain people but give it to other people. And likewise, you can give them the ability to delete document versions or not, depending upon an individual user. But the recycle bin overall, the presence or absence, is a globally set up setting.
And the age limit is global as well.
The age limit is also global as well.
Right here. If you have a user that deletes a file but nobody notices for 7 days, that file will be deleted. And the only way for you to know would be through the audit trail.
Right.
So you'd be able to see that. You'd have an audit trail showing that. But that may not be enough time for anyone to even notice that someone accidentally moved something into the recycle bin, right? So depending on your needs, that may not be the most ideal choice. Maybe set it to 365 days. So any files over 1 year old, they just automatically delete. Then again, maybe that's not a good choice for you. Maybe you prefer to never have Laserfiche automatically empty your recycle bin for any of your users. And instead, it is the administrator only that can purge the recycle. So recycle bins, again, are private, just so everybody remembers that, right? Every individual user can only see their own recycle bin. You can't see somebody else's content in that recycle bin, but that could be an issue. Then what Ian also highlighted, which I think is important, especially for our financial service firms, is that you may want to disallow any delete rights for any users whatsoever. Delete will just move them into the recycle bin. But if they do that, that's still a problem for you, especially if there's 7 days or 365 days or something. So you may want to remove the delete feature completely for your users. And most of our customers are set that way. So they can move something into the, they cannot move anything to the recycle bin right. That right is removed. So consider that when you're thinking about your overall global plan. Anything to add to that?
Don't disable your recycle bin. That's the only thing.
So have a recycle bin, but also turn off delete rights for most of your users. It's probably a good plan.
Other questions? All right, let's keep on going. This next trick is a pretty straightforward one here. This is the ability to paste folders only. The idea here is that if you have a folder within your Laserfiche repository that has a set folder structure that you'd like to be able to reuse, but you don't want to pull the documents from that folder structure as well, you can copy the folders in question and use the paste folders only option there. In the example that you can see here, I have a selection of folders that would typically be assigned to a particular client. In this case, I can copy what's in there and paste only the folders and not the documents within that. This could also be useful for if you are setting up a new office. Maybe your old office has a folder structure that works really well for you. You want that folder structure to be used again for this new office, but at the same time you don't want to take all your documents from the old office and put them in the new office's folder structure. Copy that, paste that into your new office's location using the paste folders only option, and you're good to go there. You got a question?
Can you paste folder structure from your network drive?
Can you paste folder structure from your network drive? Let's see. I'm not sure about that, actually. You know?
Well,
You can drag and drop a folder structure from your network drive. So if you want to start mocking up your folders that you're going to want in Laserfiche in Windows, you can start laying that out, and then when you get Laserfiche, you just drag and drop it into the client. It's set up perfectly exactly the same way. Yep.
But I think the question, correct me if I'm wrong, is would that take the documents as well by dragging and dropping them?
Well, if you have documents in there.
Yeah.
It will take the document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the paste folders only feature is available just from one location in Laserfiche to another. Dragging and dropping from an outside location would take effectively everything.
Yes.
Everything
So,
is structured.
yes, yes. So you want to be a little bit more judicious and careful when you're pulling documents in from outside of Laserfiche. That's how you're supposed to rank it. Is there a question?
Question from the simulcast here. If they have the ability to delete, do they automatically have access to retrieve it from the recycle bin?
My understanding is yes, they do, for their own documents specifically. Basically, the question, by the way, was if someone has the ability to delete, do they have the ability to restore documents as well? And the answer is it's specific to their own documents that they've deleted, unless you're an administrator, in which case you have the ability to restore any deleted documents. But user A cannot restore user B's documents without user A having administrative rights. That's my understanding at least. Okay.
So to restore all your committees, that document guided,
Yes, to restore, if you have deleted something and put it into the recycle bin, you can just drag it back to where it was originally. I believe there's there's also a right-click and choose restore option as well within those documents too. So it'll take it back where it was originally. Other questions?
What constitutes a folder structure? Is it just folders and subfolders, nesting, deep, or is there permissions? What else? What is
What constitutes a folder structure? Is it just the folders and the subfolders, or does it also copy the permissions from there? I believe the permissions are copied, actually. Is that correct? I'm not sure about that. So we need the metadata. Okay. The metadata would be copied, certainly.
I know with a briefcase, for sure, you get all the security, all the metadata, and the folders. I'm not sure about copy-paste with the security.
It's a good one to
It's a
It's a good question. That's a good one for Laserfiche answers, I think. Actually. So that's a good one.
That's
to
our
ask.
Laserfiche answers back there, Joe Boy. There he is.
And I don't know.
Okay. Well,
We'll look into that.
Stumper.
Joe doesn't know. So all right. All right, other questions for right now? All right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about watermarks. If your administrator has enabled the individual watermarks available, you'll have the option of including them on the documents that you specifically import or export or print. The basic option through there is if you go into the options menu, you'll notice that there are export and print nodes, and each of those have a watermark sub-option section. You can click the check box to allow the exporting, watermarks to be assigned when you're exporting a document, when you're printing a document. Again, provided there are no other watermarks that are superseding that. The administrators have the ability to set up watermarks for a more global level. These will be ones that are individual to you for your user section there. You have a variety of options here. You have the ability to specify where on the document the watermark appears, what the text it uses is, the angle and size of the watermark as well. Is anyone using watermarks currently in their browser? Okay. We do have one client out there who is using it at a more global level to basically prevent leaks from occurring. Someone was exporting a document or printing a document. They knowledge of it that was coming from on that document. This would have been kind of the level above the individual user watermarks that you're seeing right here. But that is one possibility of these watermarks there. Anything from the web on that?
No, not right now.
All right. Let's keep on going. So let's look a little bit about annotations. How many people are using annotations? Okay. You're using them. Okay, so what are you using them for there?
We use highlights, we redact,
Okay.
put comments on things, we have stamps for originals to help us identify the stamp originals in our office.
Okay. So yeah, you're outlining the most common types of I mean, really all the types of annotations there. You mentioned highlighting, you mentioned redactions, you mentioned the sticky notes that you put information on there, and stamps to indicate originals. Anyone else using annotations for other processes there? So let's take a look and see how we can configure these. One particular thing I want to draw your attention to here is the redactions. If you have sensitive information on a document that you don't want to be visible to all the users within your system, you have the ability to configure the redactions so that they are either private or protected or both. Protected means that the annotation can only be modified by the creator of the document, the creator of the annotation or the document owner. Private means that it will only be visible to the person who's created it. So if you have, let's say, a social security number on a document that you don't want many of your users within the system to be able to see, you can redact that information and you can set that to private so that people who do not have the right to see that social security number do not even know that it should be there. So I think it's pretty useful there. Is anyone thinking of more annotation options that and strategies for using them that might occur?
Custom date timestamp.
Date timestamp, actually that'll be sort of the next section we've got here. So take a look here. No worries. You did. Yeah, if you're using a stamp style annotation, you can set it to include dynamic information so that when you go to create a new stamp, you'll notice there is a token button that I've circled right there that will let you specify what text you're putting in. And that can be dynamic text that will change depending upon when this occurred. For example, you can see that in this case, this stamp indicates the date it was last accessed on. You can use that token to populate that with dynamic information, just like we did when we were creating workflows. If you set up your signature as a monochrome bitmap, you can use that as an annotation as well. That'll be something that Jessica goes into in more depth when we get to her section of presentation, but we'll see that very shortly. All right, we also have the ability to set up customized toolbar buttons. If you go into your options window for the toolbar node, you'll see there's a custom button there, which will allow you to create any sort of custom toolbar buttons that you care to. For any item that can get set up as an icon on your computer, including a shortcut to a network location, an application that you'd like to open up, Another Laserfiche module that we'll be seeing shortly, you can set up as a toolbar. You can set it up to open up a specific document. You can set it up to open up a particular website, as long as you can get a shortcut that's navigatable to on your desktop there. So a lot of the commands that you might want to put there do require a little bit of finesse to enable, but there's also many simple ones as well. So, for example, this right here, I've set this customized toolbar button to open up a particular program, which I think will be pretty useful to you all. Anyone see what that is there? This is Laserfiche Quick Fields. Yes, exactly. So, all right. And of course, you know, any other applications, Laserfiche or not, that you'd like to set up as a toolbar button, you can set up here. If you find yourself going to a particular website to look up information, you can set that up as a Laserfiche toolbar. There's really not a lot of limits to what toolbars you set up here for yourself. Are there any people out there who are using customized toolbar buttons right now? Anyone have any ideas for how they might want to use them in the future?
I have an idea.
Oh, well.
Well, I have a question. Is it just for launching programs, or can you create icons that are essentially
You can, yeah. If you can create an icon for it, you can set it up as a toolbar. So programs are the ones that, to my mind, jump out immediately, but it could be a network location, it could be a specific file, it could be a internet location, a website you set up a shortcut for. I know that this is within the Laserfiche client here, but the Laserfiche client icon itself can be configured in a lot of different ways to open up using a particular method of authentication or open up using particular search. So I would probably guess that there are similar customization possibilities available for just about any application out there. So, other questions? Was there someone over here that had a question?
I have an idea.
No, you have an idea? Okay.
Did you know that you can use this to launch websites? So you could have a button on your toolbar that will take you directly to answers.laserfiche.com, where you could submit questions or view other people's answers or submit feature requests directly and immediately to the Laserfiche development team.
One of the default toolbars is the help button, so this just kind of takes that one step further, I think, really, in a lot of ways.
And you could make a toolbar button that will take you directly to the, oh, our support team isn't listening, but directly to our support team's portal to go to assist, so you can get immediate tech support. So instead of having to go out to the website and go to citydigital.com and click on the support, then click on the, you know, you could just paste that website into a command here. The way it would work is first you launch your internet browser, so you have your path to your internet browser program, whether it's Chrome or Mozilla or Internet Explorer. Then you post in the website after that, and I believe it's just in quotes. And then you can get directly to a website. Same with your internal intranet sites or any other websites that you would frequently access while you're looking at your documents.
A lot of web browsers out there have the sort of save as shortcut to desktop option as well, which you could also use maybe even quicker possibly to set that up. So, question?
The possibility to have some variables connected to them, so like the thing what document you're on or something, like it automatically create PRS or something and launch a website for Mac or something.
Question is there a possibility of including variables within that command so that where you are in Laserfiche sort of determines what information gets sent out when you're opening that up?
Documents that having to do with the property or something might have a latitude longitude on it.
Right.
Read that variable.
Okay, so sort of like taking the information from a particular document and maybe opening up a MapQuest page for that area is what you're talking about there. I'm not entirely sure. My guess is there probably is a way, but it may require a little bit of research and finesse to do that.
I think that there's a way to do that. I'm not sure that this is the forum that you would do that in. I think that that might be a button with a script behind it instead. But I have heard instances of that.
I'm assuming those buttons with scripts are done with the SDK.
Yeah.
Yeah, those would be done with the SDK.
By the way, Answers has tons of code samples, so if you're looking for how to do something like that, that Answers website is they probably have it already up there. I would not be surprised.
One more question?
Is there a way to globally give these buttons out to like all the users that have the client? Or
Hmm.
do you have to individually create?
My understanding is that there is, but the process that you would use to do that is a little bit trickier. I think that certainly it used to be a very common. Oh, sorry, I should have asked the question again. Is there a possible way to assign these buttons globally to each user as opposed to individually setting them up for each individual user? And the answer is probably. It's a process that is.
That's a really
Yeah.
good question, actually, because there's a lot of discussion about that on the Answers webpage.
Mm.
And the way that it works now is that these settings are stored in your registry. So the way to push it out to other users is not through attributes. If you're used to pushing out settings in Laserfiche, you might be used to using the attributes feature in the users. But for this particular feature, because it's something that loads before the client loads, or as the client loads, but before authentication, the way to do it is through a system registry pushing out through a login script.